Christo, congratulations. I saw it actually 3 or 4 days ago. My God, it's really a very powerful film. And before that, I was watching Jolly Joseph as well. And I thought,
Yeah,
I wonder how much of Jolly Joseph influenced Undercurrent, or how much of Undercurrent influenced Jolly Joseph. Probably writing that or thinking about it while you were doing that. Or maybe they're two completely independent works. But I was so impressed by both. But of course, we're talking about Undercurrent today. So tell me all about it.
yeah. Sorry. I think it was during the pre-production of Undercurrent that I got the opportunity to direct the Netflix show. Uh, at first, I wasn't very keen because it was non-fiction. I was
Right.
more interested in fiction. But then when I got more into the story, I thought it was fascinating. It's not every day that you come across such a story. Also at that time,
Absolutely.
what uh, got my attention was that it was also about family and relationships and lies and those things, which is something that I was exploring at that time. Also, it's something that interested me a lot because maybe because I was also doing Ullarukku, which is my Undercurrent, which is my first film. So this I am very interested in exploring the dynamics within the family, the relationships within the family, the secrets and the lies within the family. So I think it in a way fell both of them. You know, I would like to say it's a coincidence that both happened at the same time. I was editing one in the morning, and then editing Jolie in the afternoon. So it was
Oh,
even like that, and it was during the edit break of the Jody Joseph case that I went on and shot Undercurrent. So the films were happening parallelly. Either I will be doing the music for one and the post is happening for the other. So in a lot of way, it was happening parallelly. But I do not know if I can say one influenced another, because for me it was both two separate films with two separate approaches, even creatively, production wise, everything was different. But of course, I think this theme of family and relationships and secrets and lies, it just appeared in both. Yeah.
absolutely. And what a powerful movie Undercurrent is, you know. Uh, uh, how did the script develop? How did this relationship between these two women who first it seemed to be so different and at odds with each other, how did it develop? I mean, were you surprised by your own ending, or
Uh,
was it organic? I was wondering because the way you ended, I was wondering, is that really how you had intended it, or it just, the character sort of, took you away?
No, I think the ending has been always that the image, the final image has been always that I developed this script at script labs and uh, like global media makers mentorship programs, and so it was a long years of development. The idea for the film came from an incident that happened in my family in 2005. I My mother's house is in a place called Muttar in Kutanad. So it floods there every year. So one of those floods in 2005, my grandfather passed away, and we had to wait to his body in the flooded house, and we didn't know when we
Oh,
could bury it.
I thought it was referring to the 2018 floods. This
No,
is
no.
normal,
Yeah. This is normal in Kutanad, which is a low-lying area in Alapi. Uh,
right?
I mean, since our childhood, we have been going there during the floods to play as kids.
Oh,
I mean, for the parents, it's always a headache, but for the kids, it
for
has
the
been like
kids,
that.
it's
Yeah. But I think even Kerala came to know about floods only after 2018. But for me, it was a regular thing. Like it happens every year during the monsoon. So for all of us, it was a regular thing. But even for the majority of Kerala population, they just go to know about floods after 2018.
yeah,
So this,
exactly.
yeah, the story. So started writing the story much before that. In 2016, I started writing it. 2017, I went to the film screenwriters lab, NFDC screenwriters lab. Urmi was one of my mentors. Yan Apparel was there. So we worked on the script there. Then in 2019, I went to the co-production market. Uh, In that year, I also won the Cinestan script contest. And 2019,
And
I think.
Lapata was number two, right? Lapata Ladies was number two.
Yeah, yeah, Labada Ladies was number two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That also, I mean, yeah, straight coincidence. Yeah, and then in 2019, I went to the filmmaker global media makers program, which is conducted by Film Independent in association with the US State Department. So I also mentored the script there, and I kept on working on the script all during the years. There was a break during the COVID when we couldn't do nothing, so I kept working on it. So I always used to take suggestions from the people and all that. But I remember that my ending has always been this. uh, in the at the lab, once I tried to change the ending and tried pitching with another ending, and for me, I remember, was very furious. So yeah, so the ending has been always this. It's only the question was only how to get there. So that was something that I was working on. But with the ending, there was no. I mean, with some films, you struggle a lot with endings. Like in
Yeah,
Kamugi, I struggled to find what the ending was even during the edit. But here, the ending was always there. The struggle was to how to get there. Uh,
get to the end.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, how to get there in an organic uh, way. That was always the struggle.
right. Tell me about the casting. Because you've got two terrifically talented women. And
Yeah,
Arjun, of course, who's really
yeah,
emerging as a rising star. I like all his work. I, of course, first saw him in Rocket Boys, but subsequently have seen other work of his. He's really good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So when I started writing the film, I was just a pass out from the institute, so I didn't imagine it to be mounted on this scale. I couldn't know that I could get such great actors for my film. But as I started developing the script and started pitching it, and I think when I won Sinistan, that is when things began to change, because a lot of studios were there, and Honey of course contacted me a few days later of Sinistan because of the win. So I think at that point there was an interest in the story from Mumbai production houses. I had tried to mount it here in Kerala before, but I was not able to because it was a female-led film and it required a certain kind of budget because of the floods and all that. But I was willing to do it any which ways. Just want to do the film. But then I got, like with Honey, I got most of the things that I asked, and at the same time, he also was very sure in his mind that it has to have good actors. I mean, stars, if I may call that. And then I mean, how Parvati came into the picture is also, I mean, a long story, because the first time I narrated to Parvati, she thought it was too intense for her, and it was then years later, during the COVID times, that we contacted her again and told that the script has changed a bit. She read the script, I also narrated to her. That's when she came on board. And so for me, there is not a better cast than Parvati for this role. So, and Parvati also wanted, because it is a film about two characters, right? And it's a film about their relationship. So Parvati also wanted somebody as a co-star whom she's excited about.
Yeah.
So when we told that we have been talking to Urvashi ma'am, she was more than excited. She was she was like, please get her. So yeah. So then
And she's worked with her before, right?
no, she hasn't. So this is
Okay.
their first film together, even though both have been in the industry for like very long. This is their first film together.
Oh, so that's the excitement, additional excitement.
Yeah, yeah. So Parvati also, I don't know if she had even met Urvashi Chechi before this film shooting. Yeah, but they had a very good relationship on the set as well, and I think it helped the characters both. I mean, both of them were great, and I think for a first-time director, it's a dream cast, and you can't
Yeah.
also pull this kind of film without them, because it's a very performance-oriented film. So everybody who read the script also said that you need like strong performers to pull this off, and I was very lucky that I could get both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the relationship is also silent. It's the
Yeah,
glances they share, and it's the way they're uncovering things about each other, but separate from each other. So there's a lot of the film is actually about gestures and glances and uh, 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 the way they touch each other as well, you know.
yeah,
So it's very difficult to convey all that. I mean, you have certain dialogues, but you also have all these silences. So were there
yeah.
lots of takes? Was there a workshop? Did you do readings?
With both of them, it was very minimum. Parvati did a reading like a day before the shoot, I think, with other actors and with Arjun. But even before that, uh, when she first read the script for the purpose of auditioning Arjun, I got the feel that okay, I mean, till that point it was just a written dialogue. But when she said the dialogues, it was over a Zoom call, and we were doing it for auditioning Arjun. And then I felt like the character just came to life. That time I knew that I just felt it that I mean wow. So with Parvati, she comes to set very prepared. She knows exactly what the scene is. She knows all the dialogues. She also plans her movements and actions in such a way that even for the editors it's very easy to cut because there are a lot of cut points. So she's very prepared and meticulous in that way. So it helped me as a director because I had to put in very little effort. Like I had to do minimum direction for her, if I may, if I can say that. She also, even before the shoot starts, she'll be involved in the costumes and things like
Right,
that of her character. So she's very prepared, and I mean, I like that a lot because she is uh, has been working in the industry for so long, and she doesn't have to do that, but she still does it. So that I think is great. With Chechi, I think it's a completely different process because she is much more. She is very spontaneous.
right,
So for her, it is just being that moment and just letting it go. So both are different types of actors. So it's also about how you manage them. But it has not been very difficult because both are very good on first takes. These are
yeah.
actors with so much experience, so they're great on first takes. So it's only the question has only been whose shot should you take first because other
Right,
have to perform. So that uh, burst of one person has to come when we are taking their shot, right, and not giving the counter. So I mean, there was discussions and about those kind of things because some scenes would be more intense for Parvati, some scenes for Chechi. So those things we had to figure out. But otherwise it was a great working with both of them. With the others actors, most of them are except Alencia's character who plays the
yeah,
Parvati's father. Most of them have been not very experienced. So with them, I had to do more rehearsals, or I had to sit with them a little bit more, and things like that. So I think the way of working with actors also has been different with different people,
right.
but these two has been just phenomenal. I think the only question is to get to the set, get them to set, and just get them inspired for that moment in the
Right.
right manner. Yeah.
Where did you shoot this, Christo?
So I shot the film. The house that you see in the film is my mother's house. It's the same house where the when the floods happened, we had to wait with my grandfather. So it's the
Oh,
same house.
in Kutanag.
Yeah, in Kuttanad.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's at least convenient. And you had
yeah.
to obviously set it up a little for the movie. The water, you see the people negotiating the water first outside the house, then inside the house. Uh, all that you had to do, obviously.
Yeah, so we saw a lot of houses for this shoot, but we couldn't find one better than that. My mind was always fixated on my mother's house because that is a script. That is a house that I imagined also while writing the script. That's a place that I imagined while writing the script. But when Shahnad came on board, we went and saw a lot of houses. there is also, it's not just that we have to like a house, it's that it has to fit a lot of criterias, like there has to be a river in the front, there has to be a paddy field in the back, it can be flooded. So there were a lot of requirements for the house. And I think in the end we all decided that this my mother's house is the uh, best one to go with. Of course, we had to create the floods. My grandmother, my uncle, his wife, and children had to live in a rented house for like 1.5 years for
Oh,
because of the film. Because when we first
so you
started
had
shooting,
to displace them.
sorry.
They were living in this house. You had to displace them.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, they were living in this house. My grandmother has not stayed away from the house, I think, for more than 10 days ever in her life after she got married. It is like part of her existence. But they moved when I plan to shoot there. And the sad part is that at the first time when we did the pre-production and 10 days before the shoot got uh, cancelled because of COVID and because of some other
Right.
reasons.
Right.
The shoot got cancelled, and I was trying to mount the project again, but I was not able to. And my grandmother and uncle's family were living in this rented house again indefinitely. They wouldn't know when they can come back. This house, because we had started building the set, was in a mess. I didn't know what to do. And for some time, I thought the film is going to happen. But then my uncle told that. Then when like after 7 8 months, when my uncle asked like, "What should we do? Like, should we go back or should we keep staying in the rented house?" I said like, "I don't know. I mean, it's better that you go back because I don't know if the film will happen." So I told them that, but still, I think they maybe had more belief than what I had. So they stayed in the rented house, kept on staying in the rented house, and then finally we were able to
Wow.
mount the film. So I don't think
What a
anybody will do that.
story.
Yeah,
How good of them to do that, right?
yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody would do that.
Yeah,
But yeah. It's yeah. So
great.
I greatly
And
overload
this
the.
is the house. This is the house that you would go to. You'd go by boat and come. I mean, cross the river, go by boat. Because Parvati also, I mean, she rows the boat like a pro, especially in those couple of sequences when she does it alone. Was she
Yeah.
used to doing this, or did she learn it? Or
Yeah, so she learned it for the shoot that I told her that you will have to row the boat. So she did undergo training here at Kochi before the shoot. Also, I think when we went for the shoot, she tried. I mean, she tried it there as well because rowing in the river is very different from rowing
yeah,
here in Kochi in the
I'm
backwaters.
sure it was. Yeah,
Yeah, so she did training and she did everything by herself. So that is great. She would send me the pictures of her bruised hands from her rowing. Yeah.
great. So, Christo, tell me a little about yourself as well. Where did you grow up, and what drew you to the movie?
I grew up in a very middle class family in China Sherry, in a place called China Sherry, which is like half an hour from Kuttanad. My father was from China Sherry, so after marriage, my mother settled with my father there for the longest of time. I went to schooling there, and I went to science school when I was in the military school when I was in the nine. It's around teenage. I think I developed a fascination for films. Of course, I mean right from the childhood you are always fascinated by films. Like I was a big fan of Suresh Gobi, if you.
Oh, yes, our new MP.
Yeah, he's now MP now. So I was a very big fan of him. I was a very big fan of his scope films like Commissioner. So I would go to all Suresh Gobi films, action, masala, Suresh Gobi films, and I would get this cassette. At that time, there was VHS. So we had a TV at that time, and I would play Commissioner, and all my friends, we'd watch it again and again. I knew all the dialogues of Commissioner by heart. So
I hope he knows what a fan you are.
no, I haven't met him yet. So, Yeah, so at that time I was a big fan of him and the co-op films. I also wanted to become a police officer at that time, uh, and become an IPS officer. So yeah, but all through life, film was very big integral part of it. I remember seeing Spadigam in theaters in Kerala. I think that is one of my first earliest memories of going for a film. Uh, but I think it was during when I was in ninth class, 10th class that I developed an inclination for writing. My mother writes a bit, uh, and then in plus one and plus two, I got introduced into the world of Malayalam literature. I was a late, I joined the party late, I should say. But once I got introduced into that, I was captivated by that world of you know Malayalam literature like Bashir, M.T. Vasudevan Nair, Anand, uh,
Right.
Kamalada, Madhavi. So I mean, it was just fascinating, and this just opened a world up for me. So it was at the same time that I started watching another kind of films because there was a film society at that time in Kochi, if I'm not wrong. So there was a screening as part of the public library there. So I would start going for that. So that opened up a new world for me. I remember seeing a film called Gloomy Sunday. I've never seen it since. It's about this Hungarian song, listening to which people committed suicide. So the film kind of I just saw it was very different from what was happening in our mainstream commercial cinema. So that is when I slowly started getting into that world of it, and I was going for engineering training at that time. But I think a few months later, I told that I don't want to do that. I want to go to learn films, and there was my mother was very sad, and there was a lot of uh, tears at the house and in the house and all that. But at that age, I think one is also very idealistic and one is very adamant. uh, when as a boy you are that age, I remember when I went to collect my TC conduct certificate from my principal in at plus 2. He asked me, what do you want to do in life? And I said, I want to be a filmmaker. And he asked me, how do you know you got some talent for it? And that question kind of stayed with me all throughout. But I wanted to, my dream was to join either FTA or SRFTI. I wanted to, but for that you needed a graduation. So I joined mass communication at Marvenis College Trivandrum, because mass communication at that time was something which is at least related to film or this field.
Film, yeah.
Yeah, so I think being in Trivandrum for 3 years during graduation also was a great experience because IFFK happens there. I first went to IFFK when I was
Yeah,
in
lovely festival too.
yeah, when I was in first year in college. I used to, even if there was an exam the next day, I used to go to IFK with books, and we have to stand in long queues to get into
Right.
the
Get
festival. I
tickets.
would read the books under the street lights till we get into it. So yeah, so Trivandrum also had a lot of other festivals. It also had a lot of art festivals. Surya Festival used to happen there. There was a lot of plays. It was a very cultural city, especially at that time. Uh, so that I think influenced my aesthetics, and there was also Chalchitra Academy where you could go and pay 25 rupees and watch films in a DVD with a home theater. So this was all luxury that I would wait for classes to end to go there, or if there is a class, there is not one class, the class is cancelled. If my friends are all going to something else, then I would always call Chaltar Academy and ask whether I can come and watch a film. So and then I after the graduation also I did not get into film school at my first chance, and I didn't do anything for 1 year. And my friends even asked, like, "Are you wasting your life?" And things like that. And even the second year, I applied for more courses, but I got into some, but I was not happy. I felt like I was just happy until I got through SRFTI, and then I think from there it was a almost I felt like the life was perfect there. because you are leaving films from day to night. There's got
This
great
is
facilities.
Calcutta, right? It's a
Yeah,
different
Satyendra Rai Film
environment
Institute,
for you as
Calcutta.
well.
Yeah, it had a great campus. The students were very few in numbers, so there were a lot of equipments and facilities were much more easily available. And I would start the day maybe sometimes watching a film, then going to class, then practicals, and then again watching a film in the evening. So it was like a dream life. Uh, but at the same time, it also spoils you a bit because you don't have to your films are going to get made any which ways. Don't have to try for funding there. Whatever story you write, you will go for a screening there. Sorry, you will get your films made there. Uh,
Right.
but as soon as you pass out, the world is completely different. You have to struggle to make every film. You have to convince a lot of people. So yeah, I think film institute also spoils you a bit, and it's a very too safe an environment for. I stayed in that environment for too long. So yeah, yeah. So once I came
2 years.
back, sorry.
For 2 years.
No, it is a 3-year course, but at that time the course used to take a much longer time. My course got completed in 5.5 years, and
What
then
a
it's
dream life. And in Calcutta, it must have been wonderful. Did you enjoy Calcutta?
yeah, yeah, of course, it was great there. It's only during the last years when your friend starts leaving the institute, you feel like, what am I doing here? But Calcutta is great. I was also fascinated by Calcutta. I had read a lot about it in the books, in Malayalam literature, a lot of stories from that place. Ray, Ghatak, Manal Sen. So
Yeah.
it was great. I mean, the first time when you come out of Howrah and you take that yellow cab and uh,
You
cross
think
that
you're
bridge,
in a movie.
yeah, yeah, you feel like you're in a movie with trams and yeah, the place has been great, but it's not a. I should also be honest in saying that it's not a great place to make films, at least from a logistic point of view, but because everything is a little bit slow, the government
Yeah.
offices runs a bit slow. So for the production side, everybody is very relaxed in life. They don't have any. That is one thing I say. I mean, if you go to shop and want to buy something, they are, if you give the exact change, they will give the things. Otherwise, they don't even bother. And everybody will close their shop from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock because they want to get their afternoon sleep. So yeah, it's a very chilled out space in that way.
So just the last question, Christo. There's been so much talk of late of, does the system help independent filmmakers or does it not? What is your view on it, especially, with the movies that have done well at Cannes this year? They all seem to have really struggled to have got there. They're there despite the state, not because of it. What's your opinion? How difficult is it for an indie film?
Yeah, I did not hear what you said after Cannes win. I just lost that
No, for
line.
instance, there's a lot of talk about how a lot of these films have got to Cannes despite the government, not because of it. You know. That the
Yeah.
government doesn't really give you an enabling environment, which it should. For instance, in Kerala, the state government is quite enabling to people who want a career in arts. For instance, you yourself talked about things like Chalchitra Academy, the festival. It creates an enabling environment. It's not necessarily so when people actually start to make movies.
Um, yeah, I mean, I also tried to go through that route initially with this film. I went to the co-production market, I pitched it there. But for me, also, I can't tell from other people's experience. But from my experience, what I understood was, I mean, again, it's strictly related to my film. I felt
To
that it
your
was, yeah. So my film, I felt that it is fell somewhere in between. It was not a completely art house film or independent
experience.
film in that way. At the same time, it was not a masala commercial film. So my film kind of stood in the was part of that middle path, and I think that also made the struggle a little bit very specific to this film. And my worldview and especially my views about films have changed from a lot from the time I joined the institute when I wanted to make films like Tarkovsky to and Brezo
Yeah.
and Ghatak, and right now I'm also in a space where I want to make films that are much more commercially viable. I'm interested in telling those kind of stories. I want my films to seen by the audience in theaters in large numbers, whether it's in theaters or whether it's an OTT. I wanted to also, as an audience myself, I enjoy those kind of films. I enjoy films that gives me an adrenaline rush, keeps me excited and hooked right from the word go. So my take on films, my attitude to films also have changed a long way through this journey. Mm, and I think it will keep evolving. But I wanted to make films that are very entertaining, at the same time has a very strong emotional core. Uh, I like melodramas. I like huge set pieces. So I wanted to make those kind of films. So my evolution of filmmaker was also, I think, big in these years. Coming back to independent cinema, yeah, I think it's a different ball game altogether. I mean, I can't say which one is easier, which one is hard. Making commercial cinema is hard. Making an independent film is hard. I think one has to choose what do you want and pursue it. But of course, when you come to state funding, yeah, you are right that compared to a lot of European countries, we don't support independent
Yeah.
films much. I don't think there is any funding as such, except a few. In Kerala, they have a funding for three women filmmakers, uh, and I think, but it's very limited in that number. So I don't think we have funds or grants like they do have in Europe. So of course,
That's
I
right.
think a lot of these films, including Piles, get made by the funding from the abroad. I think co-production market is trying to kind of get that going for Indian filmmakers. But again, it depends on the journey that they take. For Payal, her films have been to Cannes before, to Berlin before. She has been part of Cine Foundation. So, so, so that journey has helped her to get where she is now. I think not every filmmaker would have, uh, can have, maybe would have that kind of success with the films he or she makes. So yeah, it's a very tricky place to be in, I think, because in commercial cinema what happens is the logic is very simple, right? You excite an actor to get them to act in your film. A producer will come on board because actor is interested. You make a film, the audience will see it. It's either going to be a hit or a flop. There is no there is no dicey situation, at least in the perception of what a success is, right?
Right.
It's a box office hit. More people will come for your next film.
Yeah.
At least if it's like critical acclaim, people will be interested to work with you. So the logic, I think, is very simple, straightforward, very easy to understand. With independent cinema or the festival, the films that travel on festival, the journey is much more different. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I also have not been able to go on that journey. And now I don't think I will go down that route anymore because my aesthetics has also changed. But yeah, but I hear a lot of my fellow filmmakers
Yeah.
saying how difficult it is, and how even after getting to festival it's difficult to sell the film, how it's difficult to make
How
the
to
money
get it
back.
to be seen, which is
Yeah,
what a filmmaker wants, seen in your own country, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not easy, I
And
don't think.
yeah.
Yeah, just want to add that I don't think it's also uh, a reflection of the quality whether it gets selected to a festival or not. A lot of other things also happen, like how good your network is, how good your film kinds of fit into the parameters that the festival is looking for. So it's not just based on uh, just the quality of your film. So that I
That's
find a little disheartening. You want a film to, of course, the quality is again subjective. You can say that, but still, you want the film to get into a big festival or not based on just its quality. But again,
yeah.
every festival has their own. Some support more experimental films, some support more narrative films, some support more social issue films. So yeah, and you also need right kind of networks, and you need to know programmers. So it's a very different world actually.
But one thing is sure, Malayalam films are doing exceedingly well in
Yeah,
India and outside. Suddenly, the world has realized, oh my God, Malayalam cinema is so progressive and so
yeah.
exciting, right?
Yeah. I think that has also happened. I think especially this year because of the films that came out, people are coming to theaters to watch them.
Yeah,
These are not entirely commercial masala films as such as well. Some of these films which had a good run at the box office are not very, which not completely commercial masala films in the typical manner. But still, these films have succeeded at the box office is a huge thing of thing. Of course, they have stars attached to it, big stars, of course, that helps. But it's a very good sign and it's a very good place to be in. But while making these films, I think that it would be risky for the makers of it and the producers of it. But still, it's a great sign that it is doing well. And I think what I can't compare the entire history of Malayalam cinema to other places' history, but I think what has happened at least this year is that the films that come out that are coming out from here are relevant in some manner.
yeah,
At the same time, they're entertaining. At the same time, I felt that they're innovative. Like for example, if you look at a Premalu, you look at a Brahmayugam, you look at Manjumail, and you look at an Avesham, they are not just commercial formula. Of course, there is. I'm not saying there is no structure to it, but it's not typical commercial formula films as such. There is
yeah,
something to it. There is a humor in Avesham. There is a world building in Brahmayugam. There is an emotional core at Manjumail. There is I mean, Girish Shetty's films I've always been a fan of. So yeah, so I mean, there is a quality to these makers. I think that I feel is very, which is great than simply just a few films doing well at the box office. These films had, very had a signature mark of their
yeah.
directors, and it comes with a very specific vision of the director, and it is not a very proper formulaic masala films. Of course, I mean there is masala in Avesham, of course, but there is also
Quite
humor, which is very,
different. Yeah,
yeah, but there's also humor and there's very specific to Jittu. Faghat is extraordinary as Ranga. So yeah,
yes.
so
Wonderful. I wish you all the best and